Sometimes, in the deepest part of the night, when the world feels like it is barely breathing and I wonder about the endless rise and fall of empires, I find myself haunted by a single thought. What if the rules of value have changed forever? Let me take you on a journey. Because today, I have witnessed something that feels like the unexpected blooming of a flower through concrete. Bitcoin has not just crept into the grand ballroom of traditional finance. It has started to rearrange the chandeliers. If you are searching for certainty in these wild markets, welcome. You are not alone. Before we dive deeper, let's make a deal. Subscribe to Crypto 101 Central and let's travel together through this fractured, thrilling world. Hit that bell as well, surrender to the unknown with me, and you will never miss another pulse of this revolution. There was a time when gold was everything. Weighty, reassuring, the relic we clung to in the storm. I used to believe in gold's silent promise, store of value immune to the whims of governments and time. But now, as I look back, those golden years are shadowed by the electric prospect of something ruthlessly new. Bitcoin, the digital gold of our era. Is this mere rhetoric? Some days, when I watch the price tumble, nearly half from its peak, I wonder. The old narratives claw at me. Gold is surging, silver gleams, and Bitcoin, battered, seems almost humble. But then I recall the arc of history, a decade, 2 decades, stretching behind us, reminding me that Bitcoin has, over the long term, outshone gold. The dollar slips, relentless. And somehow, in that slow erosion, I taste the urgency of a future that insists on being born. Let me strip away the statistics and the blaring chatter. This is not just about numbers. It is about potential, about wanting to be part of something that for so long felt locked away. Then IBIT arrived. The first Bitcoin ETF, like a gate kicked wide open in the fortress of Wall Street. Suddenly, the pent-up desire that had festered for years was free. Doors unlocked not only for small investors, but for the monoliths, advisors and institutions who had waited, fingers poised, for this moment of legitimacy. IBIT's launch was a storm, record-shattering. 2 years and change have slipped by since that day, and despite the punishing drawdown, IBIT remains the largest ETF ever. That is not luck. That is transformation stitched into the fabric of financial history. You might ask what changed? Even my own friends, who once scoffed at Bitcoin at those smoky late-night dinners, began to listen. Something, I think, snapped in May or June of 2023, when Larry Fink finally embraced Bitcoin publicly. That day marks the true start of this bull phase, a wave that razzed doubts and made way for conviction. After the ETF launches of January 2024, what once sounded like blasphemy now feels like dogma. Bitcoin, and perhaps Ethereum, and yes, sometimes even Solana, have earned their place at the table, no longer rebels at the window, but must-haves within the asset allocation models of the world's biggest players. The question of, does this belong, is fading, replaced by a new, quieter question. How much do I dare to have? It is funny, because for years, the narrative was about longing for the institutions to arrive. Now that they are here, the landscape is rougher, sharper. The influx brings a new breed of aggressiveness. I once moved in those circles, the hedge funds, voracious, always hunting. Now liquid and institutional, Bitcoin attracts not only buyers but soon shorters. Their appetite is boundless. They thrive on both sides of chaos. Be careful what you wish for, they say, but I cannot help feeling that we, this community, have won something profound. But winning has consequences. There is a kind of restlessness that comes with being first to scale, an endless pressure to expand, diversify, reinvent. We built IBIT not to leave it alone, but to build outward. New funds, new ideas, even tokenization. The dream of taking the staid, aging instruments of finance and sheathing them in digital muscle. Yet for every 10 new crypto ETFs filed, we hold. We proceed, slow and deliberate. I wonder at times if this is courage or caution. Perhaps it is both. Growth, after all, is not only outward but inward. Companies growing in this space must choose where revenue flows, whether to tokens scoffed at as mere speculation, or to measurable, stubborn equity. We've invested in 24 companies, all at the cusp of true growth, the kind with over 50 million in revenue, sometimes 100 million. None of them tokens, no fleeting promises. Only the bedrock on which the new economy is being built. We look at the ecosystem and see an explosion. Stables, real-world assets on-chain, poly markets, prediction markets, a dizzying dance of possibility. We are alone, perhaps, as the only growth fund focused solely on crypto, blockchain, digital assets, Web3. Call it what you will, but at its heart, all lines eventually lead downward to Bitcoin. BlackRock, a name synonymous with the sturdy, traditional bastions of finance, has become, for some, a crypto company in disguise. There are jokes about this around the office. But there is an undeniable shift. I see it. New clients, new assets, new rivers of ambition flooding in from this sector. Perhaps, in a few years, digital assets will be the pulsing heart of the business. But I do not see abandonment of the old. Instead, I see a bridge, a trembling, powerful bridge, spanning the wilds between the old guard and the pioneers. IBIT was a bridge, Aladdin's integration with Coinbase another. Even tokenizing money market funds is a kind of mirror image. Digitals dressed in the old wrappers, or old instruments remade as digital. These two worlds are twining closer every day, each merging toward a tomorrow where few will remember the dividing line. There will be a moment, perhaps soon, where we no longer speak of crypto or traditional finance. There will only be a new definition of value. If you followed me this far, remember to like this video. Mark it with your voice in the comments. Have you felt this tectonic shift? Sensed the old and the new colliding in your own life? Your thoughts are another thread in this sprawling tapestry. The narrative around Bitcoin as digital gold is more than a story. It is a myth grown into reality, hardened by time and longing. It doesn't matter that recently gold has soared and Bitcoin has slumped. In the grand sweep of years, Bitcoin leaves gold breathless. I still hold both. Gold is solid, ancient, a weight in the hand, a whisper of other centuries. Bitcoin is different. It is absence-made substance, an idea burning in the air, flourishing not in vaults but across the minds of millions. The world punishes certainty. I have learned this well. Markets cause pain in ways that seem almost deliberate. They sweep gold to new heights while making you question what you know about Bitcoin just before the winds shift again. People squint at charts and try to read the tea leaves, trying to divine whether this digital asset is delivered or spent. And yet, beneath and behind it all, the essential pristine collateral quality of Bitcoin persists, a core, unspoilable truth in the digital age. Institutional acceptance has brought with it a new breed of volatility. Ironically, as mainstream adoption has grown, so too has the reckless leveraging, the wild speculation. Futures contracts spun out in a fever can drive a cascade of chaos. Tenuous events spin into sudden price wipes out of all reasonable proportion. It makes would-be adopters nervous. They see not the hedging power of a digital escape hatch, but the dizzying volatility of a speculative storm. But ask yourself, is that the true story? When the storms hit, the old hands, the long-haul believers, do not run for the exits. The ETFs barely flinch. Redemptions, even in wild weeks, are fractional, measured by tenths of a percent. The sellers and the panickers are not holed up in regulated funds, but out on the ungoverned seas of leveraged perps and fleeting hope. Do you remember? 6 years ago, next month, I picked up the phone, my mind whirring with fear, with curiosity. It was the beginnings of a pandemic, and I needed to know what would become of the dollar. That one call rewired my thinking, forged my understanding of macro for a world set to unravel. Since those days, our relationship with value, physical or digital, has mutated. I launched a physical gold business in '09. It stagnated until the rumblings of a different world began. Now it thrives, shoulder to shoulder with the digital future. This is why I keep faith with both. Gold has its place. Monetary history distilled. Bitcoin, with its decentralized, scarce, digital essence, is possibility calcified. It is not bound to the fate of any nation-state, any election cycle. Its differences from gold are many. Both, in my mind, belong in every future. And yet, in the macro view, the grand sweep of capital across continents, policies cast long shadows. When the Federal Reserve keeps rates too high for too long, or capital rushes toward artificial intelligence, robotics, and new frontiers, it drains liquidity from crypto. These are seasons. Passing is both painful and promising. Through it all, the dollar drifts downward, silent but inexorable. For those of us committed to this double helix of gold and Bitcoin, the medium-term forecast is bright. The institutions are here. The bridge is built. The message, as I whisper it to myself, is hope, stubborn, piercing hope. In building the future, we have not gone it alone. We have sought out the very best partners: Coinbase, Circle, Securitize, the stubborn reliability of Bank of New York, the innovation of Anchorage. Each step forward, selective and careful, adds strength to the new foundation we are building, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who dares to believe with us. So as we come to the closing bars of this symphony, I leave you with this. Watch the other stories we have gathered on Crypto 101 Central. Hit that bell to stay part of this extraordinary wave. Because, together, we are not just observing finance as it rewrites itself. We are living inside the myth as it happens.